Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. So today we are going to discuss about the nervous tissue and muscle tissue. Okay. All right. Now, nervous tissues. All right. Um, First things first. All right. Nervous tissue functions in the receive or receiving, okay, processing and transmission of information. Right. Now, nervous tissue contains or consists of neurons and glial cells. Okay, nervous tissue ni ada neurons dan glial cells ataupun glia. Right, now neurons ni, okay, neurons, they are also known as the nerve cells that transmits nerve impulses, right? And these glial cells or glia, they do not transmit nerve impulse or impulse, right? But rather they are the supporting cells in the nervous tissue. Okay, now in many animals, a concentration of nervous tissue forms a brain. So sekarang ni, so now you can picture that your brain, right, is a highly concentrated nervous tissue. Right, now let's take a look at the neuron first, right? So there are two parts in this nervous tissue, the neuron part and the glial cells or glia part. All right, now let's take a look at the neurons. So neurons consist of cell body and the nerve process. Now the cell body has different shapes. All right, it has plasma membrane and organelles except centriole. Now the nerve process, right, is the thin slender structure that is attached to the cell body. Okay, and this nerve process includes the axon, dendron and dendrites. Okay, dendron transmits impulse towards to the cell body and axon transmit impulse away from the cell body. Okay, now like what I mentioned earlier about these glial cells, they are supporting cells in the nervous tissue. All right, and these neural glia, all right, neuroglia, glial cells or glia, right, they apparently do not conduct electrical impulses but instead support and insulate neurons and eliminate foreign materials in and around the neurons. Okay, now example of neural glia is the Schwann cells that associate with the axons and form an insulating covering, which is the myelin sheath. I'm sure myelin sheath rings a bell here. Okay, and then produced by successive wrapping of the membrane around the axon. Okay, gaps in the myelin sheath known as the nodes of Ranvier serve as sites for accelerating an impulse. Now, this transmission of impulse you will learn in detail in the second semester, right? Or otherwise, if you want to learn it now, also can. After this video, you may search transmission of impulse, right, in my channel. It's there. All right, so these are the three types of neurons, right? Okay, so I'm sure you know these neurons. You have learned this before, right? So first we have the sensory neuron, right? So this is how a sensory neuron look like. Very much different if we compare with this motor neuron, as well as the interneuron. Lagilah, right? Very obvious. These three cells, they are very different with each other in terms of their physiology. Okay, as well as structural and morphological. Sorry, not physiology, structural and morphological. Now, sensory neuron, right? Their typical location, right, can be found in your eyes, your ears, and surface of the skin. Right? The word here is sensory, to sense, meaning to say, the sensory neurons receive information about the body's condition as well as external environment and then send impulse from sensory receptor, right, to the central nervous system. So apparently these sensory neuron dendrites are connected with the um, sensory receptors. Okay, so this is the direction of the conduction of the impulse, right, towards the cell body and then towards the axon. Next, oh sorry, before we go to interneuron, all right, this is the Schwann cell that forms the myelin sheath, right, and the part, right, or the axon of the neurons that is not being wrapped by the Schwann cell that forms the myelin sheath, right? This part is known as the nodes of Ranvier, which accelerate the transmission of impulse, okay, along the axon. Right, next we have this interneuron, right? The typical location is in the brain and the spinal cord. All right, they are primarily, okay, or major can be found in the central nervous system, okay, which is the brain and the spinal cord. Now function is to integrate information, all right, okay, and then to conduct impulses between neurons within the central nervous system. Okay, all right, so this is the dendrites, these are the dendrites, and this is the axon of an interneuron. Now motor neuron, right, you can see these are the dendrites and these are the axon, right, and then parts of the axon that is not myelinated is known as the nodes of Ranvier, right, and this is, each one of these is the Schwann cell. Okay, now motor neurons, right, typical location is in the brain and spinal cord. Okay, the function is to stimulate muscles and glands as well as conduct impulses out of the central nervous system towards the muscle and glands. Okay, now a better diagram, so right, on the three types of neurons, can you see how they are differ with each other? Okay, so this is the sensory neuron, right, neurons that they are attached, the dendrites are attached with the sensory receptor. Okay, then we have these motor neurons, you can see their dendrites are attached with the muscle here. Okay, these are muscles fiber. Okay, and neuromuscular junction is the junction or the gap, all right, between this dendrite with this muscle fiber, right, this is neuromuscular junction, and this is the interneurons. All right, now neuroglia, right, the supporting cells in the nervous tissue, right, so we have these ependymal cells, microglia, astrocytes, and oligodendrocytes. These four types of glia cells can be found in the central nervous systems, right, and these are their functions. And these satellite cells and Schwann cells are found in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, now for the STPM candidates, you don't need to know this detailed function of these glia cells, right, or neuroglia, tak perlu tahu dia punya function semua ni, but you need to know yang satellite cells ini, Schwann cells ini, oligodendrocyte, how they look like and where they can be found and what are they, itu perlu tahu, right. So these are, all of these are the glia cells, right, they don't transmit impulse and they are found, these four glia cells are found in the central nervous system and these two glia cells are found in the peripheral nervous system, right. Okay, so In this slide here, it shows you how these glial cells are related with each other. Okay, ini salah ejaannya neurons ni. Apa ni? Alright. So, for example, this is an interneurons, right? For example, okay, so you can see how this dendrites, okay, is being connected with the capillary, the blood capillary by these astrocytes, right? And one astrocyte attached with another astrocyte, all right, and the other astrocyte apparently attached with the dendrite of that particular neurons. Okay, and then you can see here how these oligodendrocytes, right, connect one axon with the other axon of another neuron, right, via the Schwann cell. Okay, ini adalah Schwann cell. Okay, this is the myelinated axon. All right, now muscle tissues. Okay, the tissue that is responsible for nearly all types of body movement. Okay, and then all muscle cells consist of filaments, right, containing the proteins actin and myosin, which together enables muscles to contract. Okay, now there are three types of muscle tissue in the vertebrate body. They are the skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. Okay, later I will show you a picture, all right, a diagram of this actin and myosin. Now, skeletal muscle, like in this diagram here, okay, a group of cells and multi-nucleated, you can see, all right, one cell has more than one nucleus. Okay, multi-nucleated syncytial tissue, all right. Now, syncytial tissue means, all right, a multinucleated mass of cytoplasm that is not separated into individual cells, or right, simply defined as a group of cells that function as a unit. Okay, itu maksudnya syncytial, group of cells that function as a unit, or a multinucleated mass of cytoplasm that is not separated into individual cells. Cardiac muscles, right, they are individual cells, you can see here, right, this is one cardiac cell, right, or myocytes, right. Myo means jantung, cyte means cell, so jantung, cell jantung. So this is one myocyte. One myocyte apparently has one nucleus, right? Differ from the skeletal muscle, where one cell can have more than one nucleus, right? Because those cells apparently they are not separated into individual cells. Okay, itu untuk skeletal muscle. Now, this cardiac muscle, right, okay, consists of individual cells and not syncytial tissue, but behaves as syncytial tissue. Okay, they behave like syncytial tissue, meaning to say they function as a unit, right? They are group of cells function, behave. Sorry, these cardiac muscles, right? When it comes to their function, as if they exhibit syncytial tissue, meaning to say cardiac muscle ni dia apa ni, in terms of function, their cells work together as a unit, right? Their cells work together as a unit, right? Now, smooth muscle, right, these are individual cells and not syncytial tissue, right? So meaning to say each one of these smooth muscle, it works on its own, right? All right, Skeletal and cardiac muscles are also known as striated muscle. Boleh nampak ah? Because their appearance, their cells appear to have transverse stripes. Boleh nampak ni? These are the transverse, right? Transverse stripes. Garis-garis-garis ni. Right? When viewed in longitudinal section under the microscope. This is the longitudinal section. Keratan rentas memanjang. That is longitudinal section. Right? Not the cross section. Cross section ialah keratan rentas. Okay? Cross section ialah keratan rentas, and then longitudinal section ialah keratan memanjang. Yes. Okay? Longitudinal section. Now, if you look at the smooth muscle, all right, do they have transverse stripes? This is a longitudinal section. Do they have transverse stripes? No, they don't. Okay, it's pretty obvious. Dia tidak jalur-jalur ni. Okay, so the contraction of skeletal muscle, right? This skeletal muscle is under voluntary control. Okay, whereas the contraction of this cardiac muscle and this smooth muscle is generally involuntary control. Okay, generally involuntary control. Okay, can you control your peristalsis? Obviously you can't, right? This smooth muscle can be found on the walls of your peristalsis, sorry, in the walls of your gut. Okay, and then the contraction and relaxation of your gut is by involuntary control. Okay, the same goes for your heartbeat. Can you control your heartbeat? Dia boleh kan? Okay, now the skeletal muscle or striated muscle or voluntary muscle. Okay, apparently the skeletal muscle, they are known with other names as well, right? Striated or voluntary muscle. Okay, boleh nampak these transverse stripes. So the skeletal muscle made up of numerous very long muscle cell. Boleh nampak muscle cell di sini. Okay, this is the muscle cell, long muscle cell, alright? That is called the muscle fiber. So this is one muscle cell, right? Long muscle cell, sangat panjang. Okay, and then in this one muscle cell, there are many nucleus. Okay, so one muscle fiber, right? One muscle fiber has many myofibrils. Can you see these myofibrils? And these myofibrils, okay, consists of myofilaments. If you look at this picture here, all right, you can see this long muscle cell has more than one nucleus, right? It has nuclei, 1, 2, right? Satu ni ialah satu muscle cell, panjang, sangat panjang. Okay, and then it has striations. So this is the plasma membrane. Okay, dia nampak dengan jelas. Okay, sorry. This muscle fiber, right? This muscle fiber, okay, attached, okay, by tendon to the bone, right? Or tendon attach this muscle fiber to the bones, right, of the skeleton, and movement of the bone is done by contraction of the muscle by voluntary control. All right. So one muscle fiber, all right, sorry, many muscle fiber will make up or made up muscle fascicle, fascicle. I don't know how to pronounce that, right? Okay, and this eventually made up the skeletal muscle. Mana sini? All right. So this muscle fiber, all right, lie parallel to each other. You can see from here, all right, within the muscle, and are connected to the tendons on the ends of the muscle. Each skeletal muscle fiber, all right, is stimulated to contract by a motor neuron, right? Okay, so now in this diagram here, okay, you can see this one structure here that is called sarcomere. Okay, sarcomere. Mana punya mouse cursornya? Okay, so this is one sarcomere, right? So one muscle fiber or one muscle cell, okay, you can see it is multinucleated. Okay, multinucleated. Sekarang kita mau tengok sarcomere ni macam mana. Okay, so this is the one sarcomere. Okay, one sarcomere from one Z line to another Z line. Alright, okay, mana mau start ni ya? Alright, mata jadi rambang lah tengok ni. Alright, so each muscle fiber consists of many myofibrils, like what I mentioned earlier. Betul kan? Okay, tengok balik sini. Alright, so one muscle fiber has many myofibrils. Satu ni ialah satu myofibrils. Okay, so ini satu myofibril. Now a closer look on this many myofibril, right? Each myofibril consists of repeating sections of sarcomere. Okay. Okay, sorry for the delay, all right, because I went to change the spelling of the sarcomere, right? It's sarcomere, okay, not sarcomere, it's sarcomere. So again, let's go back here. Now, each myofibril, okay, consists of repeating sections of sarcomere. Soalnya, all right, or repeating units of sarcomere. Now, this unit of sarcomere consists of alternating straight dark band and light band. Okay, and the dark band is known as the A band. Now, kalau tengok di sini, this is the A band, right? One Z line to another Z line. This is the Z line. This is the another Z line. So now, in one sarcomere, okay, it has the dark band, which is the A band here, and the light band, which is the I band. That gives the muscle fiber the striated appearance. Okay. Now, kenapa yang apa ni? This A band, alright, it appears as darker compared with the I band, because if you can see, as you can see from here, right, this A band consists of overlapping of the actin and myosin. Okay, this is the myosin protein. This is the actin protein. Okay, this actin protein is thinner compared with this myosin protein. Okay, so the A band consists of thick myosin filament, all right, and this thick myosin filament apparently is a protein. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. The A band consists of thick myosin filament, right, which is a protein. Okay, that's supported at the center by the M membrane. M membrane is not shown here, right? And this center part, right, known as the H zone. So H zone consists the M membrane as well as the thick myosin filament, right? Ini ialah H zone. Dalam H zone ini, sini ada satu garisan lagi dipanggil M membrane. Okay. Okay, now the I band, right, it appears lighter because this I band, okay, it is only consists of the thin actin filaments, right? Thin actin filaments, and these thin actin filaments, right, are supported at the center by this Z membrane. All right, so this Z membrane holds the actin filament, right, of this sarcomere with another sarcomere here. So when sarcomeres they are relaxed, this is what happens, right? You can see how this what is this actin filaments, right, it moves away from the M membrane here, right? Now, when the sarcomeres are contracted, okay, or when your muscles contracted, this thin filament, all right, apparently it is being pulled towards the M membrane, right? Dengan ni M membrane. So again, when your muscles relax, this actin filament is being pulled away from the M membrane here. Okay. Now, end plate or neuromuscular junction, right? Like what I mentioned earlier, is a synapse between motor neuron and muscle where impulse is transmitted. Okay. Now, the functions, okay, of your um, striated cells, right, for powers walking, lifting, talking, and all other voluntary movement, right? So this shows you, right, how this um, thick myosin filament, right, lie side by side or parallel with the thin actin filament, right? And this is a closer look of the myosin filament as well as the actin filament. Okay. Now, cardiac muscle found only in the heart, right? And this cardiac muscle forms the contractile wall of the heart. Now, it is striated, striated ini, right? It's striated like the skeletal muscle and has similar contractile properties. Similar contractile properties, right? That's why this cardiac muscle, they can behave like the synovial tissue. Unlike the skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle has smaller interconnected cells, right? Smaller interconnected cells and fibers that interconnect via intercalated disc. Right? This is the intercalated disc, right? Kalau compare dengan muscle cell tadi, muscle cell or the muscle fiber is a very long cell, betul kan? But for cardiac muscle, their cell is shorter, okay? That's why I mentioned here cardiac muscle has smaller interconnected cells and fibers, all right, and interconnect via the intercalated disc, okay, which relay signals from cell to cell and help synchronize the heart contraction. Okay, so this intercalated disc relay signals, okay, from cell to cell and help to synchronize the heart contraction. Now, each branched fibers are connected. Okay, you can see how this fiber here connected with the other. They are branching here, branching out here, right? And these branch fibers are connected, all right, by the cross bridge. The cross bridge dia ketara sini. Now, each individual cells, right, this myocyte or cardiac cell, they are separated by integrated disc for effective transmission of excitation, right? So now, when it comes to transmission of impulse in the heart, we don't call these impulses impulse. We refer them as excitation, okay, excitation, right, means elevated energy levels. Now, cardiac muscles, they are myogenic, meaning to say they can contract and relax automatically without stimulation from the nerves, right? And this cardiac muscle receive excitation from the sinoatrial node, SAN, okay? Sinoatrial node. So your nervous system does not transmit impulse or relay impulse to your cardiac muscle, right? But instead, your cardiac muscle receive excitation from the sinoatrial node or SAN. Now, the function of this cardiac muscle is to highly your cardiac muscles, right? They promote rapid spread of signal initiating contraction. Okay, so this is your myocytes. Okay, you can see one myocyte here. This is the intercalated disc. Okay, this is the cross bridge. This is the cross bridge between one branch uh, cardiac muscle with the other. Okay. Okay, this is the cross bridge that I mentioned earlier, right? That connect one cardiac muscle with the other cardiac muscle, and one cardiac muscle with the other cardiac muscle, they are separated with this intercalated disc, right? And then you can see how a cardiac muscle, right? They are being straightened. You nampak eh? Okay, very much similar with the skeletal muscle. So, um, both skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle, they have sarcolemma, right? Sarcolemma, as well as sarcoplasm. Sarcoplasm is the term we give to these two muscles, cytoplasm, right? Their cytoplasm is known as sarcoplasm, okay? And their plasma membrane is known as sarcolemma, right? Sarcolemma for both cardiac muscle and the skeletal muscle. Okay. Now, smooth muscle, okay, known as involuntary muscle because it is being controlled by the autonomic nervous system. Okay, and then the smooth muscle can contract rhythmically how do you pronounce it? Rhythmically, right? Or produce waves of contraction as in your intestines and peristalsis. Okay, because the smooth muscle is supplied with nerves from the visceral motor neuron. Okay, your visceral motor neuron, if you recall, is part of the autonomic nervous system. Des ni salah letak, saya belum delete lagi. Alright, so just ignore this des. Now, the smooth muscles, they are being arranged in layers. Boleh nampak ah? Arranged in layers or strands into sheets of long spindle-shaped cells. Okay, this is the spindle-shaped cells, and then one their ends it has a taper end, right? Smooth muscles, they are not branched or attached to the bone, okay? And each cell containing a single nucleus. In some tissues, the smooth muscle cells contract only when a nerve stimulates them, okay? And then all of the cells in the sheet will contract as a unit. Now, smooth muscle allows contraction in the hollow organs, alright, and also found in the alimentary canal, your dermis, uterus, arteries, and trachea. Hollow organs are like blood vessels, okay, your gut, okay, bladder, and uterus. Okay, no striations, obviously, because the lack of the thick and thin filaments, the thick myosin filament and the thin actin filaments. There are di sini. Okay, consists of individual cells. So smooth muscles are not single. Now the function, right? Powers rhythmic, okay, involuntary contractions commanded by the central nervous system. Now, other location where this smooth muscle can be found, right, within the walls of blood vessels, right, and small arteries, arterioles, and veins, right. Then in the lymphatic vessels, your urinary bladder, uterus, right, male and female reproductive tracts, gastrointestinal tract, your gut, respiratory tract, rectal pili of skin, okay, ciliary muscle, and iris of the eye. Many locations where this smooth muscle can be found. Okay. So, a cross section of the smooth muscle. This is what you can see. Okay, cross section. Okay, longitudinal, right? In a longitudinal section, you can see how spindle shaped they are. Okay. So this is your homework you need to do, right? So compare these three tissues, all right, in terms of these features. Okay, so we discuss this during our meet later. So again, comparison between these three tissues, right? You can see how very obvious they are, all right, in terms of the striation, and then the presence of these intercarotid discs, and then the muscle bridge, sorry, the cross bridge here, all right, this is the cardiac muscle. Okay, now in the micrograph, you can see how these three are differ from each other. Okay, please make sure you know how to differentiate these three types of tissues. Alright, so cognitive tissue, we continue in the other video. Alright, so that's it for today. Bye.